Ladies and gentlemen, life is full of unexpected twists and turns. We experience joy, love, and laughter, but we also face pain, loss, and brokenness. It's in those moments of deep struggle that we often find ourselves questioning, why is this happening? Will I ever find peace? Healing begins with the courage to face your pain head-on. Too often we try to bury our hurt, distract ourselves, or pretend everything is fine. But true healing requires honesty, an honest acknowledgement of the emotional, physical, or spiritual wounds we carry. Ignoring the pain only prolongs the process. It doesn't make it disappear. Acknowledging your pain doesn't mean you're weak. On the contrary, it takes incredible strength to confront what hurts. It's about giving yourself permission to feel, to grieve, and to process what you've endured. This step is crucial because it opens the door to understanding the depth of your need for healing. Pain, while uncomfortable, can also be a teacher. It reveals areas in our lives that require attention, healing, and growth. When we avoid dealing with pain, we miss the opportunity to learn from it. But when we choose to face it, we begin to see it as part of a bigger story, one that's still unfolding. This process of acknowledgement allows us to release the heavy burden of carrying unspoken hurts. It's not about wallowing in sorrow, but about giving yourself space to mourn what was lost, and to recognize that your feelings are valid. It's the first step on the path to healing and restoration, a path that leads to freedom and renewed strength. Life is filled with seasons of brokenness, times when everything seems to fall apart and hope feels distant. In these moments, it can be difficult to believe that anything good could come from the pain. Yet, even in the darkest seasons, there is a profound truth. God is sovereign, and His plans are far greater than what we can see or understand. Brokenness often feels overwhelming because it disrupts the sense of control we try to hold on to in our lives. But it is in this very place, when we feel most powerless, that God's sovereignty shines the brightest. He is not caught off guard by our struggles or surprised by our pain. Every moment of our lives is known to Him, and even in the chaos, He is working behind the scenes for our good and His glory. Trusting in God's sovereignty means believing that He has a purpose for everything we endure. It doesn't mean we will always understand why something happens, but it does mean that our suffering is never wasted. God has a way of taking the broken pieces of our lives and weaving them into a story of redemption. What we see as a setback, He uses as a setup for something greater. What feels like defeat can be transformed into victory in His hands. It's also important to remember that God's perspective is eternal, while ours is limited. We often focus on the immediate pain or difficulty, but God sees the end from the beginning. He knows how each challenge will shape us, refine us, and draw us closer to Him. This doesn't mean that the pain isn't real or that the struggles aren't hard, but it does mean that there is hope even in the midst of them. God's sovereignty in brokenness reminds us that we are never alone. He is present with us in our suffering, offering comfort and strength. He understands our pain deeply and walks with us through every trial. Even when we can't see His hand at work, we can trust His heart. His plans are always good, even when life feels anything but. This trust doesn't eliminate the pain, but it changes how we endure it. Instead of despair, we can cling to the promise that God is in control. Instead of feeling abandoned, we can rest in the assurance that He is with us. And instead of seeing brokenness as the end of the story, we can hold on to the hope that restoration is coming. God's sovereignty also reminds us that He can bring beauty from ashes. The very things that seem to break us are often the things He uses to build something new within us. Our brokenness can lead to deeper faith, greater compassion, and a renewed understanding of His love and power. In His hands, nothing is wasted, and no pain is beyond redemption. So, even in the darkest moments, choose to trust. Trust that God is at work, that He has a purpose for your pain, and that He will bring good from it in ways you may not yet see. Trust that He is writing a story of healing and restoration, and that your brokenness is not the end, but the beginning of something beautiful. There is a natural tendency in all of us to want to control the outcomes of our lives. We plan, strategize, and do everything within our power to shape our future and shield ourselves from pain. But there comes a point when we realize that our strength alone is not enough. The weight of life's burdens becomes too heavy to carry, and the answers we desperately seek remain out of reach. It is in this place of realization that the power of surrender begins to unfold. Surrender is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of profound courage and trust. It means letting go of the need to have everything figured out and placing your faith in something greater than yourself. It's an acknowledgement that while you may not know the path forward, there is a plan in motion that exceeds your understanding. Surrender is the moment when you release control and allow God to take the lead. True restoration begins with this act of surrender. When we hold on to our pain, fears, and uncertainties, we create barriers that block the healing process. But when we place these burdens in God's hands, we invite Him to work in ways that are beyond our comprehension. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving over, entrusting every part of our lives, including the broken pieces, to the One who has the power to restore them. The power of surrender lies in its ability to bring freedom. Holding on to control can be exhausting, leaving us drained and defeated. But when we surrender, we experience the peace that comes from knowing we don't have to carry the weight alone. God invites us to lay our burdens at His feet, promising to carry them for us. This act of trust allows us to exchange our weariness for His strength, our confusion for His wisdom, and our fear for His peace. Surrender also opens the door to transformation. When we stop clinging to our own plans and desires, we make room for God to work in our lives. He begins to shape our hearts, renew our minds, and align our desires with His purposes. This transformation is not always immediate or easy. It requires patience and faith. But over time, we begin to see the beauty of God's work in our lives, a beauty that could never have been achieved through our own efforts. One of the most powerful aspects of surrender is the trust it builds in our relationship with God. Every time we release control, we are declaring our belief in His goodness and faithfulness. We are saying, "I trust you to handle this better than I can." This trust grows with each step of surrender, deepening our connection to Him and strengthening our faith. Surrender is not a one-time act, but a daily choice. Every day, we face the decision to hold on to control or to release it. Some days it may feel easier than others, but each act of surrender brings us closer to restoration. It's a process of learning to rely on God in every situation, trusting that His ways are higher than ours, and resolve ourselves to do His will. The power of surrender lies in its ability to bring hope and healing. When we let go and let God, we invite Him to bring order to the chaos, to bring light to the darkness, and to bring restoration to the brokenness. In surrender, we discover that we don't have to have all the answers, because we serve a God who does. We don't have to carry the weight of the world, because we serve a God who holds it in His hands. So, if you find yourself burdened, weary, or overwhelmed, consider the power of surrender. Release the control you've been holding so tightly and trust in the One who loves you unconditionally. Let Him take your burdens and guide your path. Through surrender, you will find not only restoration, but also a peace and freedom, that also a peace and freedom, that also a peace and freedom. Waiting is one of the most challenging aspects of life, especially when we're longing for healing or resolution. It's in these moments of waiting that doubt often creeps in. We begin to question whether God hears us, whether He sees our pain, or whether He's working on our behalf. Yet trusting God's timing is an essential part of the healing process, because healing, much like growth, rarely happens overnight. It is a journey, not an instant fix, and faith in the waiting is what sustains us through the process. Healing often takes time because it involves layers. There may be deep wounds that need to be addressed, some of which we may not even recognize right away. God, in His infinite wisdom, knows how to bring these areas to the surface gently and lovingly. He doesn't rush the process because He knows that true healing requires depth and completeness. Quick fixes might cover the pain temporarily, but real restoration takes time to heal not only the symptoms, but the root causes of the hurt. Faith in the waiting is about trusting that God is at work, even when we don't see immediate results. It's about believing that He has a plan and that His timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with our own. Waiting can feel like an eternity when we're in pain, but it's important to remember that God is never late. He works according to His divine schedule, which is always for our ultimate good. During the waiting, our faith is stretched and strengthened. Waiting teaches us patience, perseverance, and trust. It refines our character, helping us grow in ways we might not have otherwise. These lessons are part of the healing process, shaping us into stronger, more compassionate individuals. Waiting can feel like a test, but it is also an opportunity to deepen our relationship with God. It invites us to lean on Him, to seek Him in prayer, and to depend on His promises when nothing else seems certain. Waiting is not a passive state. It's an active choice to trust, to hope, and to keep moving forward, even when the answers feel far away. Faith in the waiting means choosing to believe that God is good, even when circumstances seem uncertain. It's about holding on to the promises He has made and trusting that He will fulfill them in His perfect time. One of the most difficult parts of waiting is the temptation to take matters into our own hands. When we don't see progress, we may feel the urge to rush the process or force a solution. But trusting God's timing means resisting that urge and remembering that His plans are far better than anything we could create on our own. Acting out of impatience often leads to further complications, whereas waiting on God allows His perfect work to unfold. In the waiting, God often gives us small glimpses of hope to remind us that He is near. These moments might come through an encouraging word, a sense of peace, or a renewed strength to keep going. They are gentle reminders that He has not forgotten us and that He is working behind the scenes, even when we can't see it. Faith in the waiting is also about surrendering the outcome to God. It's about trusting that He knows what is best for us and that His plans are not only good but also perfect. We may think we know what we need or how things should happen, but God's perspective is eternal. He sees the entire picture, and His plans are designed with both our present and future in mind. As we wait, we can find comfort in knowing that God is faithful. He has never broken a promise, and He never will. The waiting may be hard, but it is not without purpose. Every moment of waiting is a step toward healing, a step toward restoration, and a step toward the fulfillment of God's plan in our lives. So, if you find yourself in a season of waiting, take heart. Trust that God's timing is perfect and that He is working all things together for your good. The waiting may not make sense now, but one day you will look back and see how every moment was a part of a greater story. Keep your faith strong, your hope alive, and your trust rooted in the one who holds all things in his hands. Healing is coming, and it will arrive at exactly the right time. Pain is one of the most difficult parts of life to understand. When we experience suffering, it's natural to question why it's happening and wonder what purpose it could possibly serve. Pain feels heavy, isolating, and at times, even meaningless. But when we step back and look at it through the lens of faith, we begin to see that pain is not without purpose. In fact, challenges and hardships often prepare us for something far greater, molding us into vessels of love, strength, and compassion. Pain has a way of uncovering parts of ourselves that we might not have otherwise noticed. It reveals our vulnerabilities, our weaknesses, and our limitations. While this can be uncomfortable, it's also an opportunity for growth. Pain forces us to confront the areas of our lives that need healing, realignment, or transformation. It is in these moments of struggle that God begins to work within us, shaping us into who He created us to be. One of the profound purposes of pain is that it teaches us empathy and compassion. When we endure challenges, we gain a deeper understanding of what others might be going through. Our own experiences with loss, heartache, or failure make us more sensitive to the struggles of those around us. This empathy equips us to offer genuine comfort and support to others, becoming vessels of God's love in their lives. In this way, our pain not only transforms us, but also allows us to be instruments of healing for others. Pain also builds resilience and strength. When we face adversity, we are forced to dig deep and rely on resources we didn't know we had. It stretches us, challenges us, and ultimately strengthens our character. While we may not see it in the moment, each challenge prepares us for future opportunities and responsibilities. God uses these trials to equip us for the purpose He has set before us. The strength we gain through pain becomes the foundation we stand on as we step into the calling He has placed on our lives. Sometimes the purpose of pain is to remind us of our dependence on God. In our comfort and success, it's easy to feel self-sufficient, as though we can handle life on our own. But pain has a way of stripping away that illusion and drawing us closer to the one who is truly in control. It reminds us that we need God's strength, guidance, and love to navigate the difficulties of life. This reliance on Him deepens our faith and strengthens our relationship with Him. Pain also refines us, much like fire refines gold. It burns away the impurities, the distractions, and the parts of us that don't align with God's purpose. This refining process is not easy, but it is necessary for growth. Through pain, we learn patience, humility, and perseverance. We develop a deeper trust in God and a greater appreciation for His faithfulness. What once felt like unbearable suffering begins to reveal itself as a necessary step in our journey toward becoming who we were meant to be. There are times when the purpose of pain remains unclear. We may not always understand why we're facing certain challenges or why the answers we seek feel so far away. But even in these moments of uncertainty, we can trust that God is working for our good. His plans are far greater than we can comprehend, and His purposes are always redemptive. What feels like an ending is often the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with growth, purpose, and deeper connection with Him. Pain also has the unique ability to shift our perspective. It reminds us of what truly matters and helps us focus on the eternal rather than the temporary. In the face of suffering, we often find clarity about our priorities and purpose. It strips away the distractions of life and brings us closer to what is meaningful, our relationships, our faith, and the ways we can serve others. Ultimately, pain is not the end of the story. It is a part of the journey, a tool that God uses to shape us and prepare us for what's ahead. While the process may be difficult, the outcome is always worth it. Through pain, we are molded into vessels of His love, equipped to make a difference in the world. We become living testimonies of His grace, resilience, and power. If you are in a season of pain, take heart. Know that it is not without purpose. God is using your challenges to prepare you for something greater, to strengthen your faith, and to shape you into a vessel of His love. Trust in His plan, even when it's hard to see, and hold on to the hope that He is working all things together for good. Hope is a powerful force, especially in times of uncertainty, pain, or struggle. It is more than wishful thinking or a vague desire for things to improve. True hope is a confident expectation grounded in the promises of God. Walking in hope means choosing to trust in God's plan, even when the path ahead is unclear, and moving forward with assurance that His promises will come to pass. It is a decision to live with faith and optimism, knowing that God's plans for us are good and that He is faithful to fulfill them. Trusting God's plan requires an active faith, a willingness to take steps forward even when we cannot see the entire journey. Hope gives us the courage to do this because it anchors us in the truth of who God is and what He has promised. It reminds us that He is unchanging, loving, and sovereign over every detail of our lives. While circumstances may shift and challenges may arise, God's character and His promises remain steadfast. Walking in hope is our response to this unshakable truth. When we walk in hope, we are not ignoring the difficulties we face or pretending that life is easy. Instead, we are choosing to focus on God's power and faithfulness rather than the size of our problems. Hope allows us to see beyond our current struggles and to believe in a future that God is already preparing. It transforms how we view our circumstances, giving us the strength to persevere and the confidence to move forward. Walking in hope also means embracing a forward-looking mindset. It's easy to get stuck in the past, dwelling on mistakes, losses, or missed opportunities. But hope invites us to release what lies behind and press on toward what lies ahead. God's plan is always unfolding, and His mercies are new every morning. By trusting in His promises, we can approach each day with anticipation, knowing that He is at work even when we cannot see it. Hope is not passive, it is active and resilient. It propels us to take steps of faith, even when the outcome is uncertain. Trusting God's plan often means stepping into the unknown, but hope reassures us that we do not walk alone. God is with us, guiding our steps and providing what we need along the way. This assurance gives us the confidence to keep moving forward, even when the road is difficult or the destination feels distant. Another vital aspect of walking in hope is the joy and peace it brings. When we place our trust in God's promises, we experience a sense of calm and assurance that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. This peace comes from knowing that God is in control and that His plans are for our good. Even in the midst of challenges, hope allows us to find moments of joy, knowing that better days are ahead and that God's purposes are always redemptive. Hope is also contagious. When we walk in hope, our faith becomes a light to those around us. Others are drawn to the peace and confidence we exude, and our hope becomes an encouragement to them. By trusting God's plan and living with a hopeful outlook, we have the opportunity to inspire others to place their trust in Him as well. Hope is not just for our benefit, it is a gift we can share with the world. Walking in hope does not mean we will never face doubt or fear. There will be moments when the journey feels long or the promises of God seem far away, but hope reminds us to hold on, to keep trusting, and to keep moving forward. It invites us to take our eyes off of the obstacles and fix them on the one who is greater than any challenge we face. Ultimately, hope is rooted in the certainty of God's love and faithfulness. It is the assurance that His plans for us are good, that He is working all things together for our benefit, and that His promises will never fail. Walking in hope means choosing to trust in this truth every day, even when the way forward is unclear. It is a declaration of faith, a commitment to move forward with confidence, and a celebration of the promises that are yet to be fulfilled. If you find yourself struggling to walk in hope, remember that it is not something you have to muster up on your own. Hope is a gift from God, a reflection of His character and a reminder of His goodness. Ask Him to strengthen your hope, to renew your faith, and to guide your steps. As you walk in hope, you will find not only strength for the journey, but also a deeper trust in the God who holds your future securely in His hands. In life's journey of healing and restoration, trusting God's plan requires faith, surrender, and a confident hope in His promises. Through pain we are molded for greater purposes. In waiting our faith is refined, and by surrendering we find peace and freedom. Though the process may be challenging, God's love and sovereignty guide us every step of the way. Walking in hope allows us to move forward, confident that He is working all things together for good. Trust in His timing, lean on His strength, and rest in the assurance that His plans for your life are perfect.